And action. Bill had a question about testosterone. I think most guys in their middle ages have a question about testosterone. But in this question, we're going to talk about mindfulness. And I have done videos on mindfulness, so I'll try to put a link down below. So check them out. However, if this is the first time you're finding me, don't forget to hit the subscribe button too and the alert button to find out when I do new videos. I usually do these things for patients, especially patient of the day. So if you happen to be the patient of the day, you're lucky. But today it's for Bill, and Bill wanted me to talk about mindfulness for testosterone. So the idea is that there is a link. Now, if you already practice some form of mindfulness, I think that's cool. I think we really have to practice mindfulness. And I know that half of America doesn't do spirituality. If I say, what is your spiritual practice? I used to say that all the time. What is your spiritual practice? And the usual answer is, I don't go to church. And religion has spirituality based in it, but there's more to spirituality than that. I think it's a matter of being grounded. You know, when I take people on big hikes, when we get to summits, whether it's at 8,000, 11,000 feet or just a valley, there's always this sense of, there's this pause and this silence I get from my group, because you just get to this place that you're awestruck with, and it makes you feel like you're a part of something greater. Whether you are in nature or not, you have no choice with this majesty of a mountain or a valley or a river or an ocean. You're forced to think that you're part of something bigger. You're part of this world. You're on Earth. This is huge. This is beautiful. And there's something that resonates with most people, even if you haven't hiked before. So that's why it's so fun when you go with me on hikes. However, the idea is that you can do that in a yoga class. After yoga, say 60 minutes of yoga, hot or regular yoga or chair yoga, most people will usually end, or most teachers usually end their class with Shavasana. That's called the dead man's pose. So when you just sit there, and you would think sitting there for 30 seconds to 90 seconds is not a big deal, but it's the most relaxing pose of the 90 or 60 minutes, and it really resonates with everybody. And why is that? It's because you just went through 60 minutes of pose, hold, pose, hold, pose, hold. And I like to tell my patients, I'm trying to snow screen you with a pose, when in actuality I'm getting you to breathe and to disconnect with your bills, your schedule of the day, is this going to help me with my anxiety, your schedule for tomorrow. When you disconnect from all that stuff, you slow down. And again, you can find yourself in your place in this world because you have time to reflect, versus the speed of multitasking or driving or turning on a radio, taking care of problem solving in your work, writing down stuff, keying in stuff, being online. Today's pressures are higher than they were 20 years ago. And usually every generation has more and more pressures, more and more duties. And it kind of, the brain can handle it, but it gets inundated, and we kind of forget to disconnect every once in a while. You're supposed to automatically disconnect at night. But how many Americans have problems with going to sleep, or waking up in the middle of the night, or waking up tired because you couldn't turn off the brain? A lot. It has to be at least half of my patients, and I see about 1,000, 2,000 a year. So there is definitely a practice in America where we go and buy into our computers, and we poo-poo disconnecting and calming and mindful practice and meditation. Usually the only people that meditate are my baby boomers, or my late baby boomers. I wouldn't have thought about meditating before. The only meditation I would do would be related to martial arts, and that's it. Otherwise, I thought I was good at 30 years of age with powerlifting, bodybuilding, jumping rope, martial arts, but you know, there's more to it than that. And that's where, again, I think that I'm getting on a tangent here, but it's all related. As guys in midlife, we usually will have decreased testosterone. No question, it's going to decrease. But that doesn't mean you have to have a soft erection, decreased desires, no muscle responsiveness anymore to the same old exercise you used to do before, or weight gain, or moodiness. So these are all what happens when you have testosterone that's fleeting. And usually my 70-year-olds will know this, but they're okay with that, which is really cool. It's my 50 and 60-year-olds that have those symptoms where I can check testosterone in half the guys, and the T will be okay. The T will be okay, but they'll have all the symptoms, which brings me to this mindfulness thing. I really think that the testicles that make the testosterone are not going to do that if the body is in chronic fight or flight. If you're in always a problem-solving mode, stress mode, doesn't have to be being held up. It just might be something as easy as having one task after the next task after the next task. My stay-at-home dads, as few as we are, and I was doing that for a while, that's problem-solving, because you can't really have the scheduled event. You have to take care of your kids, and there's no scheduling kids. I feel sorry for my stay-at-home moms, because that's a tough schedule to get used to. My patients who own businesses, my guys who work 60 hours a week, you know you have to crank out the hours, and you're supposed to be doing some exercise, supposed to be getting good sleep, but that usually doesn't happen. And when that is as busy as it is to leave for work at 5 o'clock in the morning, get home at 7, and try to do a dad thing, well, the likelihood is you're not going to have a mindful practice. Not going to take time for yourself. Maybe on Sunday. What do we do on Sunday? Beer and TV, which is not mindfulness. So going out to yoga class, as I mentioned before, I think will get you into a deep state of peace. But number one, you're at the mercy of the yoga studios around you and their schedules. Number two, you have to sit there for an hour. You have to drive to the place for 15 minutes to another half hour, and you have to drive home. That's 2 hours out of your day, doing 50 to 60 hours a week, trying to get 6 to 8 hours of sleep per night, and being a parent or a husband. 2 hours a day is a ton of time, and who has time to carve out of their schedule, right? So that's why I want to try to encourage my guys to practice mindful, or develop a mindful practice. I'm trying to get you guys to feel like you finished a yoga class, that good feeling you had, that high, or feel like you just hit a summit on top of, let's say, a Colorado mountain. I want you to feel that way, but I don't want you to have to do the activity. And how do we do that? Mindful practice, and that's what we're going to do. Well, at least my usual suggestion is, if you're breaking in this for the first time, you do 4-7-8 breathing. Andy Weil, one of my teachers at the University of Arizona, he has a video, and I'll put that down below too, of 4-7-8 breathing. That's where you're just watching your breath, paying attention to the numbers, controlling your breath, controlling the exhales, holding the breath, and just thinking about that. You keep on with that, and your timer is right here, and you're in tune with your timer. Usually you'll be drowning out. When you keep on with that repetition, and Andy says in the video not to do it more than a couple breaths. I really think you can do it for about 5 minutes. So if you can do something like that for approximately 5 minutes, and you got to get used to that 5 minutes, because every once in a while you got to check your watch. Or if you're doing it at your bedside, look at your clock. Now eventually you'll get the feeling for how long 5 minutes is. But when you get used to that, cool, you have actually disconnected for 5 minutes. And there's no studies that say 5 minutes versus half an hour will release the serotonin, but that doesn't matter. All I want you to do is to try that. You disconnect. And for that infinitesimal split second that you disconnect, or that split second you think, was I at 4 or 7, or I have to start all over again? That's okay, just start all over again. Get the timing down, and then you're back to it. But for that split second that you forgot, you just disconnected. And even though it might seem like a split second, there's still a ton of serotonin that's released. When serotonin is released, you flood every cell in your body, brain, heart, gut, muscle, with love. It's like getting a hug 5 to 10 minutes twice a day from somebody that really means something to you. And I'm going to be doing a video on dog or pet therapy soon, but that's the same thing. However, if you can't get a hug, if you can't get to yoga class, if you can't go to a mountaintop, then try this. Now, you're not going to get it, you're not going to feel anything straight off the bat. You'll have to do 5 minutes as your head hits the pillow at night, and then 5 minutes before your feet hit the ground in the morning before you get up. If you do that on a regular basis, usually after about 21 days, you'll get the hang of it and it'll be automatic. It'll be a ritual. You won't even think about it. It'll be 5 minutes that you just adopt it into your lifestyle. So if you do that and then maybe you squeeze more, you want or crave more, you can go into guided imagery. You can go into Deepak and Oprah's 21-day meditation challenges. They're pretty cool because they last about 7 minutes. But Oprah comes up and gives you a message, Deepak translates it, gives you your mantra, you repeat the mantra, which is another way. Usually the sound of repetition, like that breath thing, the sound of repetition, whether it's a word, a prayer, or a phrase, like Herb Benson says, will get the brain to just rhythmically go without even thinking into something. You see it in your mind's eye, you see the film, you see the words, just repeat, it's effortless. And it's so effortless you can fall into a trance. And that kind of trance that you get into, that trance-like state, without being hypnotized, not talking about that, but you get into a state where you just kind of want to do this for 5 minutes, you want to keep on going to bookend as far as the words, or the sound, or the numbers, and you really drown everything else out. And that's your time. And during that time, serotonin spikes. And remember, if those of you who have been on Zoloft, Paxil, Prozac, Lexapro, Cymbalta, those medicines are helpful at the right time, but they're there for jacking up your serotonin. What if you can do it naturally? You don't even need medicines. But certainly coming out of the gate, the first day or two, you're not going to feel like a guru. You're not going to feel like a meditator, but it'll be on your way. I mean, even if we start exercising and you haven't exercised in 20 years, you're not going to be buff within one workout day. You got to break into it. That's why it's called a practice. When I say nutrition practice, I want to know what you're doing with your food. When I say exercise practice, I want to see what you're doing. When I talk about mindful practice, same thing. So whenever you hear that word mindfulness, don't think it's artsy-fartsy. It still is important. And I plan on doing this. I just don't have the time right now. But if you're a guy and you have a really good practice and you have a calming that you do to your body twice a day, eventually the testicles will turn on again. And even if the testicles don't produce the testosterone, you'll still have a sense of peace. When you have a sense of peace, muscle responsiveness comes back, erection comes back, desires come back. You won't have so many cravings. This is all great stuff. These are all the positive effects. But they take time. And you have to be patient. However, I mean, what else are you waiting for? You're either waiting for you to change your life and wait for the dynamic to change, wait for the effect, or you're waiting for the next prescription and the next procedure. Because I guarantee you, if you start to go with testosterone, if you jump straight to testosterone injections, you will be on testosterone injections forever. And I have guys who have been taking testosterone for low T 10 years ago and it's not working anymore. And they're on maximum dose. Bingo. What do you think is going on? It's not the testosterone anymore, like some jackass doctor probably put you on a long time ago. You got to take care of calming practice. You got to make sure life is ready for that. Even if you're 60 to 70 years old, if you have well-balanced life, you should be able to get an erection. You should be able to fall in love. You should be able to have fun again. You should be able to exercise and see muscle responsiveness without getting hurt. So I really think that there's a small percentage of guys who the guys who have had their testicles cut out because of testicle cancer, which I've got like 3 in 20 years. Those guys need testosterone. But the majority of other guys, it's usually because of high stress. It could be chemical, I guess, or it could be cryptorchitic, where you had mumps before, but that's very rare. Majority of times, it will work if you try this. Now, if you're just going for an erection, you don't care about anything else, take Cialis or take Viagra. But if you want to have other benefits to this and a well-balanced life, please try to start with a mindful practice of some sort. Eventually, as I mentioned, I'm going to be putting most of my guys understand how to throw a ball. Most of my guys can see in slow motion a pitch leave the mound, the ball circling, the treads on the ball kind of going back and forth, the ball breaking, and then the path changing, and then you can see in slow motion the batter hit. If you can kind of see that and stretch it out over 5 to 7.5 minutes in your mind's eye, just play that film back from the pitcher that just cocks the ball and goes to the batter who swings and misses. That's mindful practice. If you can imagine breaking the tape, if you're doing the 100-yard dash in slow motion, being Usain Bolt, going down a slalom in slow motion, all stretched out over 5 minutes. Just in your mind's eye, just do your sport that you love. Tossing somebody in judo, whatever the sport, soccer, kicking a soccer goal and making it, whatever the sport, you can pick your own sport, pick the most influential and memorable time in that sport that you experienced and slow it down, but play it over 5 minutes. Once you get involved in that and just see the fanfare, see the people in the stadium, see the grass, see where the sun is, see the sweat coming off the ball as the guy lets go of it, then you have just released yourself from the daily regime and disconnected, and there's your serotonin. So there's several ways to do it. If you can't do any of this stuff, 4, 7, 8, breath exercise, guided imagery, sports, you should see a psychologist, because psychologists can do couch time with you, but they can also, if they're really very gifted, they can design relaxation practices for you, guided imagery practices for you. There's something called mindfulness-based stress response taught by John Kabat-Zinn. That too, if you can get a practitioner, can teach you how to relax and let go, and have serotonin shower you instead of just being conquered all day long by the stress hormone epinephrine, norepinephrine, and adrenaline. We only need those 3 times a year, but it's reversed now because all we get is serotonin during vacation 2 times a year, and we have a whole year of stress hormones. So that's not the way it's supposed to be. That's why I think America is so screwed up, and why we have so many diseases. We got everything backwards. So Bill, hopefully this helps. I kind of dragged this one out, but this all is based on whether you had blood tests or not. If you're one of my patients, you should come let me know about it. I'll be putting more videos out eventually as far as mindfulness practice. See the links down below. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next clinic.